The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the crackle of a fire, as Jack sat near the embers, staring at the shadows that danced along the canvas of his tent. His thoughts drifted uneasily, the forest feeling too still, too watchful. A faint rustle in the underbrush made him tense, and he whispered to himself, "It's nothing. Just the wind." Yet when a sharp sting tore into his wrist, his heart jumped, and he yanked his arm back with a curse. Panic rose as a burning sensation spread beneath his skin, crawling deeper with every beat of his pulse. Jack said, "No, it's inside me." He clutched at the wound, trembling as the campfire flickered weakly, shadows twisting into grotesque shapes that seemed to leer. His breath came in short gasps, and he swore he could hear faint scratching beneath his flesh, a noise that did not belong to the quiet woods. He tried to steady himself, but fear clawed through him, leaving him staring at the darkness as if it was alive. Jack sat in silence the next morning, staring at the faint wound on his wrist, as though it carried a secret. His friend Daniel leaned across the picnic table and said, "It's nothing. Stop obsessing." Jack forced a laugh, but his fingers wouldn't leave the spot. The itch gnawed beneath the surface, subtle but relentless. The forest felt wrong in the daylight, as if something unseen still watched. Daniel's dismissive tone only deepened the unease. Jack whispered, "You didn't feel it. You didn't hear it." He clenched his hand until his nails bit into flesh, trying to silence the sensation crawling deeper under his skin. That night, Jack woke with a start, heart pounding against the silence. A whisper curled through the darkness like smoke, too close to be wind. He sat upright in his sleeping bag, clutching his arm. The fire had burned low, embers glowing like dying eyes. The sound returned, faint scratching, inside him. Jack gasped. "It's still there," his voice cracking. He tried to convince himself it was nothing, but the crawling sensation spread, and each second stretched into terror. Shadows bent across the walls, forming shapes that did not belong, watching him breathe. Morning light offered no relief. Jack's arm pulsed faintly, a steady reminder of the thing beneath. He splashed water on his face at the stream, but the reflection made him freeze. His eyes looked different, strained, as if something else peered back from behind them. He whispered, "That's not me." Panic shot through him and he stumbled backward, clutching his arm tighter. A low hum echoed through the woods, though no wind stirred the branches. The world felt warped, like a veil stretched too thin, about to tear. By evening, Jack could no longer hide the truth. Sitting alone, he rolled up his sleeve and watched in horror as his skin rippled, something shifting beneath. His stomach churned, but his eyes could not look away. Each movement was deliberate, crawling like fingers pressing from within. He whispered, "It's alive." His body shook violently, bile rising in his throat. The forest, silent and still, seemed to listen. Jack realized the nightmare had only just begun, and he had no control left. Jack sat stiffly at the cabin's wooden table, his sleeve tugged low over the wrist he couldn't stop touching. Daniel leaned forward, trying to catch his eye, his tone sharp. Daniel said, "You're scaring yourself for nothing." Jack's forced chuckle fell flat, his breath shallow. He rubbed the wound as if pressure alone could silence the scratching inside. The sunlight pouring through the window did nothing to warm him, and every flicker of shadow felt hostile. Daniel's dismissive words cut deep, but Jack whispered, "You didn't feel it. You don't know what it's doing to me." Fear gnawed at him, and he wondered if the thing beneath his skin had already claimed control. Jack tried to steady his hands, but they shook against the wood grain. Daniel shook his head and muttered, "You've always been like this, jumping at shadows." The words cut like old scars reopened. Jack remembered nights when panic ruled him, when fear was his closest companion. He hated that Daniel was right, but this time was different. The thing beneath his skin pulsed, as though mocking him. He bit back a scream and said, "This isn't in my head, it's real." Daniel smirked, but unease flickered briefly in his eyes before fading into the comfort of denial. Later, Jack found himself alone by the window, staring at the trees swaying in a breeze he could not feel on his skin. His reflection in the glass seemed thinner, eyes darker, almost hollow. He whispered, "What's happening to me?" The memory of his childhood panic attacks clawed at his mind, nights spent certain something lived in the dark corners of his room. He pressed his palm against the cool glass, but it felt like pressing against a barrier between himself and something waiting on the other side. The crawling sensation in his arm throbbed stronger, as if answering him. Daniel returned with a mug of coffee, slamming it onto the table. He said, "Drink this, calm down." Jack didn't move, staring at his arm, sleeve pushed back just enough to reveal faint movement. Daniel scoffed, muttering, "You'll drive yourself insane." Jack turned to him, desperation cracking his voice. "It's already inside me." The words silenced the room, the cabin walls creaking as if listening. Daniel looked away quickly, unwilling to confront the fear curling in his stomach. Jack felt isolated, his friend's denial carving deeper into his dread. He was alone against the thing that had chosen him. Night fell heavy over the forest. Jack lay awake on the creaking bunk bed, staring at the wooden ceiling, his body rigid. The scratching beneath his skin grew louder in the silence, a private torment he couldn't share. Daniel slept soundly in the bed across the room, his calm breathing infuriatingly steady. Jack whispered into the darkness, "You'll never believe me until it's too late." His chest tightened, fear pressing down like a weight. For the first time, he wondered if he was already lost, not just to the thing crawling inside him, but to the disbelief that left him utterly alone. Jack jolted awake in the middle of the night, his body drenched in sweat. He looked down at his arm and froze. Deep scratches ran along his wrist and forearm as if torn from the inside out. His breath came ragged as he whispered, "I didn't do this." He tried to convince himself it was a dream, but the blood on his sheets said otherwise. The scratching sound was clearer now, like nails dragging against wood, except it was beneath his skin. He pressed his fingers hard over the marks, trembling, terrified that if he listened closely enough, he might hear the creature trying to speak. The next day, Jack sat slumped against the cabin wall, sunlight revealing a faint ripple moving beneath his skin. He pressed his hand over it, desperate to stop the crawling sensation. His stomach churned, bile rising as he whispered, "It's alive, it's feeding." Daniel glanced at him uneasily, muttering, "Stop saying that." But Jack could see Daniel's eyes flicker with fear before he turned away. Jack's voice shook as he said, "You saw it move, don't lie." The denial stung worse than the crawling. Jack felt himself sinking deeper into dread, his friend's refusal leaving him abandoned. That evening, a knock rattled the cabin door. Jack startled, pulse racing, while Daniel frowned. When the door opened, a stranger stepped inside, calm and unsettlingly composed. The man's voice was low as he said, "I know what bit you." Jack froze, blood draining from his face. The figure's eyes lingered on Jack's wrist, a knowing look flashing across his sharp features. Jack whispered, "What are you?" The stranger smiled faintly, his tone cryptic. "Not your enemy, not your friend. But I've seen this before." His presence carried an aura of danger and knowledge, and Jack wasn't sure whether to trust him. Jack's chest heaved as Elias leaned closer, eyes fixed on the faint bulge shifting beneath his skin. Elias said softly, "It grows stronger when you resist." Jack recoiled, his voice breaking. "You don't understand. It's killing me." Elias tilted his head, expression unreadable, and replied, "No, it's becoming you." Daniel scoffed, muttering, "This is insane." But Jack saw no mockery in Elias's face, only grim certainty. The room felt colder, the fire dimming though no wind stirred. Jack whispered, "What am I supposed to do?" Elias gave no answer, only a look that spoke of secrets too dangerous to share. As night deepened, Jack staggered to the cabin's mirror, pulling up his sleeve with shaking hands. His reflection writhed, his skin bulging in unnatural waves. His breath came ragged as he said, "Get out of me." He grabbed a pocket knife from the shelf, pressing it close to the crawling flesh. Daniel shouted, "Stop!" But Jack pressed harder, desperate. The creature beneath his skin rippled violently, as if mocking his attempt. Blood beaded against the blade before Elias's calm voice cut through the chaos. "If you open it, you'll let it free." Jack froze, trembling, trapped between unbearable dread and paralyzing helplessness. Jack sat alone in the corner of the cabin, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. The sleeve of his shirt was torn, exposing faint trails where the skin seemed to crawl on its own. Daniel paced by the window, muttering about leaving, while Elias remained silent, gaze fixed on the shadows in the corners. Jack whispered, "I can't stay near you. I can feel it wanting more." His voice cracked with fear, but also guilt. The cabin felt smaller, the walls pressing in with every shallow breath he took. He realized he couldn't escape the thing inside him, but he could isolate himself from those it might consume. Daniel finally snapped, voice sharp as he said, "We can't keep doing this. He needs help, real help." Jack's head jerked up, fury flashing through his exhaustion. "You don't get it," he shouted, his tone breaking into desperation. Daniel looked at Elias, searching for confirmation, but the older man only shook his head slowly. Jack's chest heaved as he whispered, "If you call anyone, you'll kill me." Daniel's lips tightened, and Jack saw the truth in his friend's eyes. He had already decided. The betrayal stung sharper than the crawling beneath his flesh. Later, Jack stumbled into the woods alone, desperate for air. His body ached as though the creature pulled at his muscles. In the distance he saw something, a figure swaying beneath the trees. As he drew closer, his stomach sank. A young woman stood there, her face pale and hollow, eyes empty with sorrow. She whispered, "It's too late for me." Jack recognized her, the missing camper from weeks ago. His chest tightened as he realized she was no longer alive, but a victim bound to the same curse. Her presence filled him with dread and grief, the line between living and dead dissolving before his eyes. Jack staggered back toward the cabin, his breath ragged, his mind unraveling. In the reflection of the cabin's window, he saw himself, but not as he truly was. His mirrored skin writhed violently, veins bulging black, eyes sunken deep into darkness. The reflection's lips moved, though his own remained still, whispering words he couldn't hear but could somehow understand. He gasped, backing away as the glass rippled like water. Inside, Daniel's voice broke the moment, calling his name, but Jack felt trapped. The reflection was no longer just a trick of the eye, it was the thing showing him what he was becoming. The night was unbearable. Jack sat crouched by the dwindling fire, clutching his arm as waves of pain tore through him. He screamed into the darkness, the sound raw and animalistic, echoing through the trees. Daniel rushed outside, his face pale, shouting, "What's happening to you?" Jack's body convulsed, his skin rippling as if something clawed desperately to escape. Elias emerged, his voice steady. "He's reaching the point of no return." Jack collapsed forward, trembling violently, tears streaming down his face as he begged, "Make it stop!" But the night offered no mercy, only silence broken by his own cries. Jack sat trembling by the fire as Elias leaned close, voice low and deliberate. Elias said, "You think this is chance, but it chose you because of your blood." Jack froze, throat tightening. His mind recoiled, searching for denial, but the weight of Elias's certainty crushed him. "What do you mean, my blood?" Jack demanded. Elias's gaze did not falter as he replied, "Your family has carried this for generations. Each cycle begins with a bite, a seed planted, and the host becomes its vessel." Jack's breath shuddered. The realization tore through him. This nightmare had always been waiting for him. Jack's hand shook as he pressed it against his chest, feeling the crawling spread through his veins. He whispered, "It feeds on me." Elias nodded grimly, his tone calm yet cutting. "It doesn't just feed. It thrives on your fear, your grief, everything you try to bury." Jack's mind swirled with memories of nights suffocated by panic, of trauma he thought long hidden. Daniel stepped forward, anger masking his fear. "Stop filling his head with this cursed nonsense." But the look in Jack's eyes told the truth. The thing was growing stronger. and his denial had no power against it. Jack turned sharply toward Daniel, fury breaking through despair. "You saw it move. You can't lie anymore." Daniel's face tightened, his voice faltering. I thought it was in your head, but I saw it, Jack. I saw it crawl." The admission hit like a hammer. For the first time, Daniel's skepticism cracked into fear. Jack's shoulders slumped, relief and rage colliding. "You left me alone in this." Daniel's silence was louder than denial, his guilt a weight he could not lift. The bond between them fractured, leaving Jack with nothing but betrayal and Elias's grim truths echoing in the dark. Jack collapsed to his knees, clutching his arm as a voice slithered from his throat, not his own. Words hissed, ancient and venomous, spilling into the cabin. Daniel recoiled in horror, shouting, "That wasn't you." Jack's eyes filled with terror as the whispers clawed free again, his lips moving without his will. Elias's tone remained cold. "The unseen evil has found its tongue. It uses you as its mouthpiece." Jack screamed, trying to drown it out, but the sound only twisted louder, a chorus of madness vibrating in the wooden walls. For the first time he felt his humanity slipping away. Jack staggered backward as Emily's figure appeared again in the doorway, her voice a faint echo. "I warned you." Her hollow eyes met his, grief etched into every feature. Elias whispered, "She was the last. The curse always leaves one behind to mark the next." Jack's chest caved as he realized she was bound to him, her death entwined with his fate. Daniel whispered in disbelief, "She's dead." Emily's pale lips parted, voice broken but steady. "You carry what destroyed me." Jack's body shook violently, terror mixing with sorrow, as he understood her suffering was only the beginning of his own. Jack gripped the knife with trembling hands, the blade glinting in the weak lantern glow. He pressed it to his arm, voice breaking as he whispered, "I'll cut you out." Daniel lunged forward, panic rising. "Stop, you'll kill yourself." Jack's body shook violently, his teeth clenched as the crawling surged in defiance, bulging beneath his skin like something alive. His scream ripped through the cabin, raw and feral, a sound not entirely his own. Elias's voice cut sharply, "If you open it, you'll set it free." Jack froze, knife trembling inches from his flesh, caught between unbearable torment and the terror of unleashing something worse. The knife clattered to the ground as Jack's body convulsed violently, his back arching against the cabin wall. His skin rippled with grotesque waves, veins darkening to black. Daniel shouted, "He's dying!" Elias's tone remained cold. "No, it's claiming him." Jack clawed at his chest, choking on his breath as his body jerked with unnatural spasms. His scream cracked into guttural tones, layered with something inhuman. Shadows writhed along the walls, responding to his pain. For a moment, Jack's eyes rolled back, and when they returned, something else looked out, ancient and cruel, watching through him. Daniel grabbed Jack's shoulders, shouting, "Fight it! Don't let it win!" Jack gasped, his voice fractured between his own and the whisper of something darker. Elias stepped closer, his words calm but heavy. "Your will is the only barrier. Give in, and you vanish forever." Jack's eyes locked on Elias, rage and despair colliding. He shouted, "You knew all along!" The crawling surged again, pressing upward beneath his throat. Jack gagged, collapsing to the floor, his hands clawing at his own skin. Daniel fell to his knees beside him, terrified and helpless, while Elias's face remained unreadable. Jack's chest heaved as the whispers became screams, the cabin vibrating with their echoes. His reflection in the broken window stared back with hollow black eyes, lips curling into a cruel smile he did not make. Jack cried out, "Get out of me!" His body slammed against the wall, as though unseen hands gripped him. Elias raised his voice for the first time. "This is the confrontation. Either you resist or you surrender." Jack's hands clawed at the wall, his nails tearing wood, while Daniel shouted helplessly. Jack's final scream shattered into silence, his trembling body locked in battle with the thing consuming him. With one final surge of agony, Jack seized the knife again, eyes wild with defiance. His voice broke into a roar. "You will not take me." He drove the blade deep into his arm, the skin splitting as black ichor spilled out, sizzling against the floorboard. Daniel screamed his name, but Jack did not stop. His body convulsed violently, blood and darkness mixing as the crawling form shrieked from within. Elias's face tightened with grim approval, whispering, "At last he fights." Jack's vision blurred, his body collapsing, but in that moment he had chosen to destroy the thing, even at the cost of himself. Jack lay motionless on the floor, his breath shallow and broken. The knife slipped from his trembling hand, blood pooling around him, mixing with the black ichor that no longer moved. Daniel knelt beside him, tears streaming, whispering, "You're alive. You're still here." Jack's lips trembled as he forced out, "It's not over." His voice cracked into silence, the fire flickering low. He felt empty, hollow, as though part of him had been carved away. The pain lingered, but the crawling had ceased, leaving only exhaustion and dread. He had survived, but survival felt nothing like victory. Daniel sat in the corner of the cabin, shaking, unable to look at his friend without hearing the creature's whispers in his mind. Jack stirred faintly, but the silence around him was unnatural, oppressive. Daniel muttered, "I should have believed you sooner." He buried his face in his hands, guilt crushing him. Jack stared at the ceiling, whispering, "It's waiting." Daniel froze, heart pounding, terrified of the truth in those words. The crawling was gone for now, but its echo lived in their silence, feeding on their fear. The cabin door creaked open with a chill gust, and Emily appeared once more, her pale form drifting across the threshold. Jack lifted his head weakly, whispering, "Why won't you leave me?" Her hollow eyes glimmered with sorrow as she murmured, "Because you carry me now." Daniel backed away, terror freezing him, his breath caught in his throat. Jack's chest tightened, realizing she was bound to him as a shadow of what awaited. The fire sputtered out, plunging them into half-light, her form glowing faintly, a haunting reminder of the curse's endless cycle. Jack sat up slowly, clutching his wound as a faint scratching sound rose again beneath his skin. His body went rigid, dread flooding back like icy water. Daniel whispered, "No. It's gone, it has to be gone." Jack's face twisted in despair as he whispered, "It never left." The sound grew louder, a reminder that the fight had only paused. Elias's voice echoed in Jack's memory. "The curse never dies. It waits." Jack pressed his hand to his chest, staring at Daniel with hollow eyes, realizing the nightmare was only beginning again. Morning came, gray and lifeless, the forest silent as stone. Jack sat by the window, his arm bandaged, his face a hollow mask. Daniel moved cautiously, afraid to speak. Then, faintly, the scratching returned, but not from Jack. Daniel froze, his hand drifting to his own wrist, where a faint itch began to spread. His face drained of color as he whispered, "No." Jack turned slowly, his broken eyes meeting Daniel's with dreadful clarity. In the silence, both men understood the truth. The creature had already chosen its next host.